Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there, welcome along to Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Interesting show today, really looking forward to this one. It's all about goal mapping. That's what we're going to be discussing over the next 60 minutes or so. Joining me in the studio today is Brian Mayne. He's a speaker, trainer and author. He's been involved in this part of the industry for a long, long time. He's going out there. It's all about learning. That's what this is all about. And how do you step back for a moment and make absolutely certain that you're doing it in the most effective way? And that's what Brian's going to explain to us today. Brian, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
On the program today. Now, there is the elephant in the room. There is goal mapping and there's mind mapping. So for the people that are watching this, what is the difference between those two?
Mind mapping really uses the technique to capture ideas. So with a mind map, you can start the central point and gradually pad out the idea that you have, or you use a mind map to capture information you want to learn. Sometimes a mind map is only created in words. A goal map is entirely focused on achievement. 7 steps, and in those 7 steps, it creates like a tree-like structure. And a mind map sometimes is created only with words, where a goal map is always created using words and pictures.
It sounds to me then that mind mapping is a little bit random actually, because you're going off at tangents all the time. But goal mapping is very focused and also process driven, it sounds like, as well.
Yeah, a mind map is free flowing for generating ideas or for capturing the key points, whereas a goal map uses the critical aspects of conscious achievement to guide the user through considering all the important questions when you want to achieve something. So what is it you want to achieve? What's the priority? What does it look like so you know when you've achieved it? Why do you want it? When, how and who? And as the user is guided through those steps, asking those questions, capturing that information, it forms the map.
Who do you think it's suitable for? Is it suitable for anybody in any industry, or is there somebody, if they pick up the phone, they call you, go, actually, this isn't quite right for you?
Now, I've worked with all industries, I think, over 25 years now, and I've worked with all different departments, a really diverse range of departments. Sales teams very often, management, leadership groups, talent pools, but sometimes engineers, support staff, diversity and equality teams, you name it. And of course the technique is not just used in business. There's a school version where more than 1 million children from state education across many countries have created goal maps to help them increase their grades, aim for a brighter future. And we have sports people using the program. It's used a lot in well-being. It's now used in recovery work with people overcoming addiction. A lot of therapists use it. Anywhere where you wish to achieve something, the system has proved it can help.
It was interesting talking to you before we started the program, and you were saying to me that to a certain extent there's a lot of repetition takes place when you're setting up your goal mapping, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to educate your brain to actually have those connections there all the time. Otherwise it just becomes something that you skate across very quickly.
Yeah, if you look back throughout history at all the different goal setting experts and what they recommend on goal setting, before the year 2000, the world's leading experts were all saying the same thing, which is rewrite your goals many times a day. Because when you use words to set the goal, and the words are important, but if you're using only words, they have a very limited connection to your subconscious mind. And around about 2000, the realization came with many experts that visualization, using imagery, is fundamentally important. This is why athletes started using visualization to enhance their performance. I met many salespeople were using visualization also to enhance their results. And so from about 2000 onwards, what you start to see is people using dream boards and vision boards. And they are good. The limitation is that many dream boards, vision boards lack words. And we absolutely need both. The words are really for the logical consciousness. The imagery, dream boards, are really for the creative mind, creative consciousness. But if we're going to be effective in our goal setting, we need the combination of the two. The words help us to have the clarity. We can quantify, we can say how much, how many, by when. That's difficult to do in pictures. But if we don't have the imagery, it doesn't command our subconscious to motivate us towards the achievement of the goal. So by bringing the two together, and a goal map has an action plan to it, whereas a vision board normally doesn't.
It's very interesting you say this, because I think in pictures.
Yeah.
My business partner, Linda,
thinks in words.
She thinks in words, and she's very black and white. I'm shades of grey, but
yeah.
She's very black and white, right or wrong, yes or no, and she will work in lists. So do you find that when you go into organisations that what you're doing is you are breaking habits for people, and do they have enough time when they're speaking to you to change their ways, to change their work practices so it becomes effective for them?
I think for many people, when I explain the science of positive thinking, because there is a science to it, it's like a big aha moment for them. And then once they have the technique to continue with after I'm gone, because my aim is always self-sufficiency with the organisation, as they're using the technique with words and pictures, it's a form of brain training. So although they're setting goals for whatever they want to achieve, in the process they're using both their creative and their logical mind. And the brain's a little bit like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it grows. And if we've got used to using one side of our brain, traditionally the right brain is more the creative mind, we may be strong with that side and perhaps weak with the logical mind, or vice versa. But it's like going to the gym. As we start to exercise, we get the balance between the two. And it's when you have the balance that you're really effective. And actually in modern life, it's a key business skill. I see more and more organisations looking for it, because when you have that balance between right brain and left brain, that you can both hold a vision of what you want to achieve or the finished project, as well as work with a strategy of how you're going to get there, out of that brain balance comes innovation.
What's the thing that people say when you go in there initially? Because they must be sceptical when you're walking through the door. So, and the number of courses and things that I've been on where you walk in the door and you think, this just doesn't apply to me.
Yeah.
And then you walk out 2 days later and you think, that's the best thing I've ever done. But what kind of things do you get then when people are being resistant to the change in thinking?
I think most people have the mistaken idea that positive thinking is about walking through your life with your head in the clouds, pretending everything's wonderful even when it's not. And once I help them to understand that that's just another form of delusion, and I start to explain the science of how positive thinking works, that's when you see people start to turn around. What's interesting for me, and I spoke at the National Sales Conference at the end of last year in November, and there was 600 sales people there. And if I look back to when I ran my first workshops in 1995, is when I started running workshops on goal mapping, the level of resistance then as compared to the level of resistance now is unrecognisable.
Are we more open to it then?
Oh, so much more open. There has been such a shift. Generally, business now recognises that it is not just about skills and knowledge. We need people that have a positive growth mindset. And education is also recognising this now. And within most training sets within an organisation, there will of course be knowledge-based training and skill-based training, but now there is also personal development and leadership-based training. And the more we help a person to develop their mindset, the more effective they are in the application of their skill set. In fact, with the world changing so fast as it is, relying on skills is very limited. Technology is moving at such a pace. Each of us need to learn more skills. I present a great deal for recruitment organisations, and they are telling me more and more big organisations are recruiting based more on mindset than on skill set. They will want to see you've got the qualifications for you to get into the interview. But if they've got two candidates with the same level of qualification and experience, but one has the mindset that fits with the team and it's a growth mindset, and the other client or applicant is a little fixed, they are taking the person that has that growth mindset, because they know with the pace of technology, they are going to need to teach new skills, new knowledge within 3 to 5 years.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because when you think back to the old way that we were taught, I mean, I know I'm a bit older than you, probably a lot older than you.
Oh, I doubt it.
But when we look back at the way we were taught at school, originally it was by constant repetition, constantly going through different processes all the time. So it was the same thing over and over and over again. And to a certain extent, that's what your experts are saying, the people that you've grown inspiration from. They're saying to change something, you've got to repeat it, to make it stick.
Yeah. When you have a new idea, what's actually happening is that you are joining connections between brain cells, and you have that moment. That's the joining of two or more brain cells, and they break apart again. If you repeat the thought over, if you remind yourself, if you engage in the new habit, and here we are in the sort of midst of the coronavirus, and people are needing to change habits, like washing their hands regularly, not touching their face. And it can be quite tough to change deeply ingrained habits, but really it all stems back to the brain cell connections. The more you repeat the same thought over and you engage in the behaviour, the more the connections between the brain cells gradually become established. And as those brain cell connections become established, they form a belief. That belief triggers chemical releases that create our attitudes. Those attitudes influence and empower our behaviour. But it all stems back to the brain cell connections. And I suppose the key point to bear in mind is, regardless of our age and our past experience, we can form new brain cell connections, have new learnings, create new habits at any age, at any time, and we can break down old brain cell connections and old beliefs and old patterns of behaviour if we learn the techniques to do it.
Well, we're going to be explaining some of the techniques to do that on this edition of The Bro. My guest on today's programme is Brian Mayne. He's a speaker, trainer and author. We're looking at goal mapping on today's edition of Business Connections Live. It's lovely to have your company as always. We are live. By the way, we're on LinkedIn at the moment. If you've got any questions for Brian, or if you're finding this one of those fascinating subjects and you feel like to make a comment or something like that, then please do leave a comment on the LinkedIn, and we'll ask him the question and see if we can get an answer out of him. I'm sure we're going to be able to do that. All right, let's go back a week now, shall we? Last week we had a fantastic programme. It was Elaine Frostman-Clark. She's the founder and director of EFC Performance, about how to create a high-performance team. A really good show with Elaine last week. Once again, very insightful. The programs that we've had over the last couple of months have been really, really interesting. Very different. We've looked at leadership. We've looked at all those kind of things. So if you are looking, if you're in the recruitment environment, if you're in human resources at the moment, then do go back and look at some of our programs. This one, by the way, is program 292. Before we go any further, let's look at 291 with Elaine. Let's go back a week for the highlights from last week's edition of Business Connections Live. You're watching Business Connections Live. Great to have your company. Steve Hyland with you today. My guest on today's show is Elaine Frostman-Clark. She is the founder and director of EFC Performance. We're talking about all things when it comes to leadership performance, how to measure it, how to see how good you are today, and then also to look into the future and see how good you're going to be once Elaine's been talking to you and she's trained you and she's maybe identified some of the issues within your organisation.
I think there's two different things here. One is around leadership and one is around coaching. Not necessarily how we see it, but I think how people looking at it probably see it. And I try to say to people, how vested are you in your personal well-being? And they'll say things like, well, you know, I eat very well, or I'm a member of a gym, or I cycle regularly. Well, isn't that the same as in the business world? How are you working out in terms of your core skills and behaviours as a leader? Teams that we work with, Steve, there's a lot of misconception about teams, and they see the team as the problem, and it's not. It's the leading of the team that is the problem. But sadly, people don't see that. They don't feel that their own behaviours are directly reflected through the team. So if you've got a poorly performing team, guess what? You've probably got a very ineffective leader. How do we start to sort that out? And very often, when we start doing some real digging around, some exploratory questioning, it's very often the people at the top. Hang on, you mean it's us, the board? We thought we'd got things so right. So what we try to do is allow them to come into their business, and you know, we'll sign NDAs if they want us to, and we observe some of their people who they think the problems lie with. So DISC is one of many profiling tools that are available on the market today. We like to think that this is probably one of the best, if not the best. It's certainly a market leader in its field, and Wiley Publishing own the rights to everything DISC. When we bring people into a workshop, when they've done DISC assessment, and we then go through how the profile works and what it actually means, how do they use it in a practical sense. Very often the comments are, I can't believe that you've got all that information from me just doing an online assessment. So what it won't do is churn out 40 questions that are exactly the same to both of us. It looks very quickly for very specific patterns, and therefore it becomes very intuitive, and that's why when people read their reports they are quite staggered at the accuracy of the report. So I am Elaine Frostman-Clark, and I am the founder and director of EFC Performance Limited. We pride ourselves on going into organisations to help leaders be better leaders, and therefore the people who those leaders are responsible for become better people. And we do that through a combination of different techniques. So we look at coaching. How do we make leaders better coaches? Because through coaching you can really have an impact on transformation. We also use profiling tools, so we extensively use everything DISC, which looks at the core behaviours of the people within your organisation. And it's not about putting people into boxes, it's about understanding this is how I function, here are my core my core behaviours to bring value to the organisation. But how do I now need to adapt those behaviours? What do I need to learn about pushing myself out of my comfort zone? We also then take that another step further, and we will bring teams and leaders into various workshops. So that's a bit of the tell. It's giving new tools, new techniques, new ideas, new ways of thinking to really leverage the effective leadership across the organisation. And then the final thing we do is teach teams how to be teams. How do you produce a more cohesive team? How do you leverage some of the real core behaviours to make that team high performing? So if any of those things resonate with you currently, that you're not coming from a place of being broken, but you want to increase the effectiveness of leadership and the effectiveness of team performance, then you can drop us a line at efcperformance.com.
That was a fantastic show last week. If you get an opportunity, go to the website and you can catch up on the entire programme. And I'm sure you'll get some really good advice, some really good information out of it. It was, of course, Elaine Frostman-Clark on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Now, if you're thinking to yourself that, well, you're an organisation, particularly with coronavirus as well at the moment, that you want to get information out to your workforce, to your customers, you still want to communicate. We've been doing all sorts of work over the last couple of days with global companies who want to get a message out to say what they're doing. They've been coming into the studio, we've been sitting down with them, putting together sort of concise, proper, story-told pieces to camera. If you're interested in doing that, well, why don't you get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live? It's dead easy to get it all sorted out. The studios, if you're wondering where they are in West London. We're in Ashford, Middlesex, Ashford, Surrey, if you want to call it that, not far from the world-famous Shepperton Studios. You can pop over here. Don't go there, by the way. People have, but don't go there. Come here, because we're about a mile away from there. Come to the studio, sit down with us, and we'll take you through the whole process. And if you're worried about not remembering your lines or not being able to deliver, what we will do, we will coach you, we will train you, we will show you how to do that. On our cameras, we have auto-cue units, so if you've got a long script that you've got to deliver, we can put it on an auto-cue system here, and you can read it out loud, and we'll show you how to do it without looking like you're reading it out loud. We'll do all of that with you. But more importantly, we'll explain to you as well a little bit about storytelling. So storytelling is important, and if you come to our studio, we'll explain why it's important and how it can help you get your message out there. If you're interested in getting in contact with us, here's what you need to do. You need to drop us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. Better still, come on, in this time of trouble and worry, let's pick the phone up and let's have a chat. But clean it first on 01784 256 777. That's our telephone number. You can follow our stream of consciousness on Twitter at BCLtv. Got some exciting news about that in a few weeks' time. Also, you can watch the program on Facebook. You can leave your comments there. You can watch it on LinkedIn. You can also get the program after the show on iTunes and all the other podcast streaming channels as well. And if you are watching on LinkedIn, you can leave a question right now. But the best place to go for nearly 400 hours of business advice and information is our website. Just go along to businessconnectionslive.com. Well, you're watching Business Connections Live. We're looking at goal mapping today. Brian Mayne, he's a speaker, trainer and author. He's also come up with a fabulous system that will help you and your organization when it comes to setting goals and actually achieving them. Because I think, Brian, would I be right in saying that a lot of people set goals and then never do anything about it?
The challenge is for most people is they're not setting the goal in a way that's really effective. And if you don't know how to set the goal in a way that engages your whole brain, then your chances of achieving the goal are really, really reduced.
Now, you were talking about synapses earlier on. For those people who are as thick as I am,
yes.
So what are you talking about there?
Well, it was a major turning point in my life. Around about 27 years ago, I went to my first personal development workshop. I didn't want to go to the workshop. I didn't believe
it's
in...
a waste of my time. He's going to teach me nothing.
My manager said you can go to the workshop or leave the team. So I thought I'd go to the workshop. But the guy they brought in was a pioneer in the UK teaching positive thinking strategies. And it became life-changing for me. It started with a quote by Henry Ford: "If you think you can, you can. And if you think you can't, you can't." And of course, most people have heard the quote before, and I'd heard it before, but it was when this guy was able to explain the science behind the saying and show me how to use it as a strategy in my life that it became really life-changing. Are we able to share the...
Yes, we are, yeah, by all means.
Okay.
So we'll just look at Brian's laptop. There we are.
So here we have the quote by Henry Ford. All of us have billions of brain cells. It's estimated you have 100 billion brain cells, and each of your brain cells, or neurons, represented by the black dot, grows these little branches which are called dendrite, and a little wiggly tail here in blue called an axon. And all of the arms and branches are separated by a small gap. It's known as the synaptic gap. When you have a thought, the thought starts in the middle of the brain cell. It travels out along the brain cell arms. It wants to make a connection with another arm and branch. So you can build up a pattern of thought, but you've got this little gap that separates them all. And the key thing to understand is when your thought is positive, whether that's a positive thought about yourself, your life, your situation, surviving this challenging time we're in with the coronavirus and self-isolation, if your thought is positive, that positive thought triggers a neuroreceptor that releases a chemical into your brain called serotonin. Serotonin is the happy chemical. It's the same chemical released if you take an antidepressant such as Prozac. But when you train your brain into positive thinking, it happens naturally. If you focus your mind onto something very happy that's happened to you, maybe recently, maybe way back in your childhood, within a few moments of focusing on that positive thought, you start to feel happy. Because the positive thought releases serotonin. The serotonin gives you the feeling of happiness. The other major function of serotonin is it's a neuroconnector. It literally joins the brain cells together. It allows your thought to continue on its journey so that you build up this positive pattern of thought. When you have that aha moment, that light bulb experience, that's what's going on. 2 or more brain cells are joining. Now, at first, they break apart again. So it's really important you remind yourself of the thought.
So this is the repetition you were talking about earlier on. That constant repetition makes that connectivity more solid and long-lasting.
And this is why goal setting is important, because every time you think about your goal, every time you picture your goal, every time you tell yourself you're going to do it, you re-establish that brain cell connection. And as you establish the connection, which takes a minimum of 10 days, you start the formation of a belief. And the longer you maintain that connection and the stronger you make it, the greater the belief grows. In the early stages, the belief is weak, it's an opinion, and then it becomes a belief. And then when it's really strong, it's a conviction. But it's all different elements of the same basic thing of joining brain cells together. And of course, we form 2 different types of belief, I can and I can't. So empowering beliefs and limiting beliefs. And many of the beliefs we form are in early childhood, and quite often people form beliefs they can't do something when really they could, but the limiting belief holds them back. So the journey of personal development really is about knowing your beliefs, raising your awareness, strengthening those that support you, and breaking down, weakening those that hold you back. And we achieve that through goal setting. Goal mapping does it in a particularly effective way because it uses words and pictures to engage both sides of the brain. Right brain, creative brain, form the vision. Left brain, logical brain, make the plan. We need both. One without the other is ineffective. If you're a strong right brain person, you have a million ideas, but you won't follow through with them. You see that in a lot of creative people.
That's me.
Is it you?
All the ideas, but no action.
If you're a strong left brain person, you'll be very good at going through with the action, but you don't tend to have your own ideas.
That's Linda.
The left brain,
actually, that isn't Linda, actually, before she comes in and throttles me.
So we need the combination of the 2. And quite often in business, there may be somebody in a leadership role that is good with vision, and they have implementers around them to make sure there's that follow through. But more and more what organisations are looking for is for people at every level to have that balance. And if we look back throughout history, the brightest minds that ever walked the planet, people like Leonardo da Vinci, had that brain balance. Equally brilliant with their right brain in paintings like the Mona Lisa. Equally brilliant with his left brain, he was the man that invented technical drawing. And when we are born, the brain is in balance. We are born with our brain in balance. And when the brain's in balance, we lead with the right brain because it looks forwards. We manage the journey, learning skills and strategies with the left brain.
So where does it go wrong then?
Well, around about 5 in most of Europe, the brain starts to go out of balance. And most people go out of balance to the left. And they will become left.
And is that because
dominant.
of social influences? Is that the way that we're nurtured?
Yeah, school and social influences. It's not done on purpose. There's no big conspiracy theory. If you look at the Scandinavian countries, and I work such a lot in Scandinavia, so Finland, Norway, Sweden, places like that, the brain there starts to go out of balance a little bit older, 7 and 8, because they're later into school and they take a much more balanced approach in their education. Finland has one of the top educations systems in the world. Again, the brain's like a muscle, and what tends to happen once we go to school is we start to focus more and more on left brain subjects, and it's compounded in secondary school. A few years ago, a lot of the right brain activity, art, drama, music, sport, PE, were all reduced in the timetable so that more emphasis could be given to chemistry, biology, physics, etc. Left brain, left brain, left brain. And I see it very often in graduate programs. I run a lot of graduate programs for people, and I see people that come out of university and they've worked very hard and they have good qualifications, but they're predominantly left brain. And when it comes to a lot of life's modern problems, we need creative solution, which actually means that we need to be balanced with the right brain.
So how do we approach it then? How do we change this? Because there's obviously an issue there that is across society, effectively.
Yeah.
So how do we identify the opportunities? How do we then set off on this change? How do we do goal mapping?
Well, goal mapping's 7 simple steps, and we can bring that up on the screen again in a moment. I think we're living through a period of fundamental change. The world is changing faster than ever before. The pace of technology, of course, is driving the change, and it's estimated that mankind's entire knowledge has doubled in the last 50 years. It will double again over the next 10 to 15 years. Every time something new is invented, it creates change. Now, the key thing to bear in mind here is that change always creates opportunity. The only way we can have something new, something more, something different is if there is change. The great challenge is, look around the world and you'll find that the vast majority of people are in fear of uncertain change. And the fear in the world at the moment, because of the changes that are taking place, is huge. When you are in fear of change, the change invariably still happens, but the fear blinds you to the opportunity. All you see is the object of your fear, and the more fearful you become, the bigger and bigger it looks. Or sometimes you can see the opportunity, but you're too afraid to step forward and seize that opportunity. And so learning the science of positive thinking really allows you to keep your mind focused so that you see the opportunities created by change and you're able to step forward and take them. I live on the south side of the Isle of Wight. It's a great sailing destination, and we have a round the island yacht race. And my home's on the seafront, and so the sailing boats go past the home. And as they come past my home, often the wind changes direction, because I live at Ventnor and it's out towards the point. And as the wind changes direction, of course, the sailors have to adjust the set of the sails. And I believe life is this way. We're each making our journey in life, and every so often things change, unexpectedly very often. And we can still make progress as long as we have the flexibility to adjust the set of our sails. And for us personally in life, the set of your sail is your outlook on life. Whether you're looking at what's right or what's wrong, it's your attitude towards the things that come, and it's your physical responses.
So the hardest bit then is allowing yourself to change, though, isn't it? Because people can tell you to have a brighter outlook. People can tell you, look on the bright side. They can tell you to be more positive in the way that you're approaching things. But it's no good just being told, is it?
I think what it requires is the person feels inspired to want to make the change, that they understand these simple principles, that positive thinking isn't just a throwaway line, be happy, that there is a science behind it. If you focus that positive thought onto yourself, if you focus on what's right about you, the release of the serotonin builds your self-esteem, helps you to have more self-confidence. It also boosts your immune system, which is a vital understanding at this time when people needing to keep themselves in a good state because of the coronavirus. If you allow yourself to become negative, the opposite happens. You release a different chemical into your brain, cortisol, which gives you the feeling of fear. And it shuts down your secondary systems like your digestion and your lymph system. And that energy is sent with adrenaline to your muscles so you can fight or flight. And it was a great survival mechanism for thousands of years when we were facing dangers like a wild animal. When the danger is my employees aren't motivated, I need to find alternative revenue in streams because business has changed, being in the fear response doesn't work. We need to stay positive because the serotonin forms the connections. And as we form more connections, we're able to engage innovation, that we can see alternative ways forward. We can adjust the set of the sail. And there may be many changes we need to make, and what's important is that we know where we want to go. that we have an inspiring goal that's like a lighthouse, like a beam of light by which we can steer our course and constantly adjust to the changing climate of the situations we find ourselves in.
Is there a process then that you can...
Yeah,
that you can
simple
take us through?
7-step process.
Okay, we're going to look at that in just a few moments' time. Okay, so hold that thought for a moment.
Hold that thought.
Simple 7-step process in just a few moments' time. My guest on today's show is Brian Mayne. He's a speaker, trainer and author, and today we're looking at goal mapping on the programme. Hope you're finding it interesting today. I must admit, I find it all absolutely fascinating. I don't know whether... Are you interested in things like NLP and things like that?
Yeah.
Is that all part of this as well, or is that another piece of psychobabble over here?
There are aspects of NLP, but my goal has been to make the material as simple as possible so it's accessible. And it's used by children and it's used by big people.
And that's what's important, isn't it?
Yeah, for me
it's accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, look, as I said, hold the thought. More from Brian in just a few moments' time here on this edition of Business Connections Live. Okay, some key takeaways now. Frank Furness, he was on the programme on the 15th of April. Do you know Frank?
Yeah, I know Frank.
Yeah, did you buy something from him?
Yeah, in the past, I'm sure.
Yeah, everybody has.
From him.
Successful new media marketing. We talked to legendary global speaker Frank Furness about how to connect with existing and future clients. As always, Frank is absolutely fantastic. He's doing an incredible series on LinkedIn at the moment when it comes to how to up your profile on LinkedIn, how to use video for selling, and just how to be more effective when it comes to getting your products and your services out there. Do check out Frank Furness. If you're not connected with him at the moment, find his website, find him on LinkedIn, do connect with him because he is inspirational. But the key takeaways from his program, here's Frank Furness.
Okay, so there's a lot of things you've got to do. First thing is get that strategy in place. Get a great website, find the right kind of people to do the keyword analysis, find out what your audience want, ask them what they want, then get out there and create the social media. Create once, publish everywhere. And then the other big thing we didn't even mention was please respond to what everyone is doing. So if somebody's going to be putting comments on your YouTube, don't just leave it there. Go back. Someone's going into your LinkedIn, they're putting some stuff in there. Please go back again. And one last thing, Steve, I've just written an ebook, 80-page ebook on the best times to post on social media, because get up in the morning, first thing we do is look at the phone. So is that the best time to post? If anyone wants it, they can just contact me, frank@frankfurness.com, and they can get a free download, an extra bonus for the program. So this is Frank Furness. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been absolutely brilliant.
The fabulous, legendary Frank Furness on Business Connections Live. You can watch the entire programme. It was Business Connections Live 260, went out April of last year, 2019. Just go onto the website at Business Connections Live, stick in Frank Furness, and up it will come and you can watch the entire show. He is just an entertaining speaker. He is a great guy to talk to, and if you get the opportunity to see him talking live, then do. He just carries a real air of enthusiasm. He must be the classic positive thinker, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
He is just terrific.
I love his work, and he's very well recommended. I know so many of my colleagues that follow his advice. And
you'll be hard pushed not to buy something from him, because that's always the joke with Frank. Did you buy something? Yes, we did. Okay, you're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Brian Mayne. He's speaker, trainer and author. We're looking at goal mapping today. I love the fact that what we've done so far is we've explained the process behind what we're talking about, what we're trying to achieve. But now we need a bit of a roadmap on how we go about doing that. Absolutely. And you've put a process together, haven't you?
Yeah, I can show that on the screen here now.
Okay.
So here is a goal map, always constructed using words for the conscious mind, imagery for the subconscious mind. Also the words are for the logical mind and the imagery is for the creative mind. So we have a main goal in the centre, then side goals, either side of the main goal. At the top is the motivating reasons why. Then we have a timeline. So a start date, an achievement date, and then moving up the right hand side we have the major actions we need to take, how we're going to do it, and then on the right hand side who is going to help. And as you go through the 7 steps, it forms this tree-like structure. And these are the critical aspects of conscious achievement. So the first step, dream, what do you want to achieve? We need that vision, that starting place. And there may be many things you want to achieve. And so the second step is to use the logical mind to identify the priority goal. Which one thing, once achieved, gives you the leverage to help you to achieve some of the others. Then step 3, to map it out in words and pictures, so we're engaging both sides of the brain. And then why do we want it? In a team map, these will often be logical reasons, but on a personal map, they tend to be emotional reasons. And the stronger the emotion, the greater the motivation. Step 5, when. Without a date, it's not really a goal, it's a wish that maybe we'll get round to someday. So we need to go for an achievement date and a start date, which gives us a timeline. And on that timeline, we can then start to place some of the major actions we will need to engage in. The how, that's going to move us up towards the achievement of the goal. And then finally, who. Whose help do we desire or require in taking the actions and moving towards the goal? These 7 steps are the 7 critical aspects of conscious achievement. And very often people achieve things almost unconsciously. They just sort of bimble through. But if you are setting out to do something you've never done before, and you need to have a map and a plan, and the goal map guides you through these simple steps. What do you want? What's the priority? What does it look like? Why do you want it? When? How are you going to do it? Who's going to help? You go through those steps, out pops the map.
When you've done this, if you just go back to the list again that we've got on the screen, so the what, the priority, the imagery, the motivating, the period, the actions and the help, is there a worked example where you've introduced that process to maybe an individual or an organisation that you can actually vocalise the story, what they went through?
Yeah, many. My biggest client is probably Microsoft. My oldest client will be British Telecom. British Telecom have introduced goal mapping to maybe 40,000 of their employees over the last 17, 18 years. At Microsoft, I did a huge program with them here in the UK with their sales teams, which took about 18 months. And then they asked me to create an online version which went out to 70,000 of their salespeople around the world. Siemens, Disney, Coca-Cola, recently Co-op, all engaging in the program, and different organizations use it in different ways. So quite often with management teams, with Microsoft it was their sales teams. British Telecom use it in many ways, so it's used with their talent pools, Rising Stars, graduate program. Many departments in British Telecom, if you want to take a management path, they will ask you to create a goal map of where you want to be in the organisation, why you want to be there, when, who's going to help you, what you're going to do. And in that map you have all the key information, and then the manager will take a copy of that and they will bring it out on performance review. British Telecom have their own people certified to teach the system, as do Microsoft and Siemens and a whole raft of organisations. In fact, there are 1,400 people around the world that now are certified to teach the system. It's not just me on my own anymore as it used to be. And I have some maps, example maps that we can
that'd be fabulous if you can. I mean, I think what's really interesting about this is the fact that it is being applied to real businesses. I mean, we're not mucking around with Microsoft, are we, or people like Siemens? So what kind of things, what are their objectives that they're looking for? Is it the fact that they're saying, okay, the objective of this particular process is that we increase sales, or is it on a more personal level that it's not about increasing sales, but it's about making their individual sales teams work better together or whatever?
Yeah, breaking down the silo mentality very often. There's an organisation called Baggeridge Brick, and they were owned by the Earl of Dudley when I started working with them. They've now been bought by Wienerberger, which is the biggest brick company in the world. And Baggeridge Brick said I put about £2 million with the goal mapping on their bottom line. I worked with them for about 3 years. Now, it started with working with their salespeople. But word spread around the organisation that the programme was good for everyone, because quite simply, when you learn the science of positive thinking and you learn how to set goals effectively, no matter which part of the business that you operate in, it helps you to be at your best. When you're being your best, you do your best work, you achieve your best results. So all the way down to the guys at the sharp end of the business, you know, working with just the bricks and doing the wrapping and the packing on the conveyor belts, even they had the workshop by the end of the program. Sometimes an organisation has a very specific requirement for me. And with EE, for instance, they wanted the program focused on helping people to feel a sense of purpose within their work. And that's a major part of the program. There are 7 fundamental principles in the whole day workshop. And the middle principle, number 4, is to be on purpose. To find a sense of purpose within your work and to be purposeful within the things that you do. And so different organisations have different reasons. Goal mapping is a little bit of a misleading title, because you'd think, well, it's all about goal setting. Actually, it's all about achieving success within yourself and life. Goal mapping is just the technique and obviously the title on the workshop. But in a whole day workshop, only the last 2 hours of the day are actually focused on the technique element. And people can use the technique on its own. Many people do. But in terms of going into an organisation, running a workshop to help their people to be inspired and continue to use the technique after I'm gone, whether it's paper-based or the new online version we have, that's what makes it effective.
Let's look at what's on your screen now. This is an example, isn't it, of one of the ones that you've done. It's funny, when I was looking at your graphics that you sent over, I did think that actually that what you were going to say to us is that, see the bit on the left, that's the way most people do it, but in fact you should be doing it the way on the right. And I suppose that was my confusion with mind mapping, wasn't it?
Yeah, no,
so what you're doing here is that you are satisfying, as you said at the very beginning, both sides of the brain, with the visual representation of your thoughts and the analytical way that you represent your thoughts.
And this is the limitation with many dream boards. A lot of people use dream boards. They've become popular since around about 2000, but they don't have the words. And so they're lacking the clarity very often. They don't have an action plan. So with the map here on the screen, this is actually one of my maps. And my big goal is to reach 7 million people. And over 25 years, I've reached nearly 5 million, together with all of the other people teaching the system. And it's used in schools and health and sport and well-being. So you can see the main goal in the centre and side goals. And then the actions. How am I going to reach those 7 million? Well, books, CDs, DVDs, seminars every week. But it's really having lots of people teach the system that's become the most important thing. If I skip out the PowerPoint for a second.
Okay.
And I'll just move towards the end and show some other map examples. So
Yep, here it comes.
Yeah,
we can bring that up as well. Yeah, there we go.
So just to show the diversity, this is a map from a child. This is my daughter. There's 1 million school children that have been through goal mapping. But here a map from my own daughter when she was 10 about being the best big sister she can be. And in contrast, here's Microsoft's map from their senior team. Simple enough that a child can do it, and yet effective enough that Microsoft sent it out to 70,000 of their people. Microsoft's goal was to become the top performing division in Europe, which they achieved for that year. They've asked me not to show the words because the words...
That's giving it away.
Well, the words...
Apple will have that.
The words carried some sensitive information, and so I haven't done that. There's another map here we can show. This is a map created using the online program rather than drawing, which is where most of my corporates go now. And this is from the Italian tourist department, and many regions in Italy are using goal mapping to increase tourism. In fact, I was meant to be there this week, and of course that's been cancelled because of the state of emergency with the coronavirus. But they run workshops all around Italy to help increase tourism with goal mapping.
Listen, more from Brian in just a few moments' time. I hope this is really inspiring you and thinking to yourself, even if you were to sit down with a piece of paper and do the analytical kind of the process and then do the picture-based part of the process to stimulate both sides of your mind. I think what a terrific start this is. There are a lot of resources, by the way, on Brian's website as well. If you go to our page within Business Connections Live about this particular program, you will find all the links to the resources there as well. So don't miss out on that. Make certain that you do that. You're watching Business Connections Live. Great to have your company as always. We're live here on a Monday, and thank you very much for joining us. By the way, don't forget as well that we do business showcases here to raise the profile of your organization, to raise the profile of your business, and it really is something that you should use. If you come in, the assets that you get are phenomenal. Let me just give you a brief example of the key things that you could actually end up doing with them. So the business showcase is designed for small to medium scale businesses. It positions you as an industry expert so that you know what you're talking about, and that's what we try to do here on the program. You come to our green screen studio. We have a number of different virtual sets that we can put you into that will be customized to actually raise your profile. It raises your personal brand as well. It's not just about business, it's about you. Media campaigns, you can use it as part of that too. Repurpose the content, take some of it, transcribe it, turn it into a book or whatever. And then you can send it out as press releases as well. So if you're one of those people that gets clogged up sitting down sometimes and you can't think what to write about your business, about your organization, well, now here's the content that you need. Stick the videos onto your website. You can be looking at improved SEO. Everybody says it, everybody loves it. They like to see more videos on websites, and then use it to introduce yourself. Going into a brand new client, doing some marketing at the moment, then use the video that you produce here as a way to introduce yourself to brand new clients in the future. Cross-media campaigns are important. Radio, television. Also, it gives an opportunity to maybe audition or to show how good you are to the broadcasters. So it's content that can be used at a later date. I would like to think that perhaps it's a professional-based interview, because that's what this is all about. It's making you look the very best that we possibly can. If you're interested, get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live. We'll show you how it's all done. All you got to do is drop us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com, or if you wish, you can pick the phone up and ring us on 01784 256 777. There's the number on the screen. We'd love to chat to you right now. And who knows, maybe now is the time to be thinking of that. Brian keeps alluding to it. Of course, we are right, well, here in the UK, we're right at the very beginnings probably of what is going to be a difficult time, I think, for businesses. So while we can still keep the doors open, while we are not infectious, get into the studio and get your message out there. And just think now for a moment, to stop. Think. What's everybody else going to be doing? They're all going to be doing talking head videos, and behind them there are going to be messy bookcases. There'll be up-the-nose shots. How do you stand out above all of that? Head and shoulders above that. What you do is you get into the studio and we talk to you and we make you look great. It's about your reputation. You wouldn't dream of sending out a document that you've drawn your letterhead logo in crayon on. You take it to a printer and get it printed professionally. That's what we're saying. Get it done properly so you look terrific. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Brian Mayne. He's a speaker, trainer and author. We've been talking, and we are talking, about goal mapping, but it's more than just thinking about setting a few goals. There's so much more to it. When I read the sheet that comes in, that you send in, and I sat there and you think, yeah, goal mapping, I can see that, but there is more to the essence to this, isn't there? There is so much more to it. The fact that you're retraining your brain to think in a particular way. You're stimulating both sides of your brain. Is there more to it than that, though? There must be. What's the next step?
There's a whole philosophy behind the technique, and there are two things that make the technique work. And the reason it's spread out to nearly 5 million people is because it works. Even Anthony Robbins, top success coach in the world, has endorsed the system and said how effective it is. So the first thing that makes it work is creating your map, and in creating the map you're forming those brain cell connections. But then the important thing is you work with the map afterwards. Working with the map means that you look at the pictures and you say the words. And so I have
Shall over here, give that here. Hang on.
Okay.
We've got one that may be able to see this. Can you see that?
I print my maps out in the folder.
Overhead, perhaps, maybe? I will. There we go. All right. Okay. So there we are. We've got. So you actually print it all out yourself and you carry it around with you?
I create the map using the online program, and it's free for people to use. And then I print it out because I like to have it in my folder, and it's next to my to-do list, so I'm going into more detail where I want to. This is one of my business maps. But of course, people can use the maps for their own health and well-being. They can do a finance map. I have a lot of financial organisations now adopting the system. Rather than just being a financial advisor, they're a life planner. And so I have a whole series of maps in the folder, and you can go into more and more detail. Siemens were using goal mapping as part of their project plan. Microsoft, it was more with the sales teams. British Telecom, it was about having a personal development plan. It really comes down to what the individual wants to achieve.
A lot of people, when they start, they don't know where to start. They know they need to start, but they're not certain from where. Now, you've got some templates that people can actually start with. So you've got one on the screen. Is that?
No, the one on the screen here is actually one of Coca-Cola's.
We'll have a look at Coca-Cola. Let's see what they're up to. There we are.
So this is Coca-Cola Hellenic, who are the largest bottler of Coca-Cola outside of America. And although they're based in Athens, they own the licenses for Coca-Cola throughout the East and much of Europe. And we took 700 of their sales team and senior management through creating goal maps. This was the senior team's map, but then it drilled down to managers and all the way down to individual salespeople. There are free paper templates and free instruction that people can download and use. It's a very simple thing to go through creating the map. And we also have the online program, which is free to use at the base level. A lot of people don't enjoy drawing. And certainly with my corporate clients, they want the imagery to be very clean, very simple, because they want to use the map to share with the team and communicate the team goals. And so most people now are using the online program, and there is a free level for that for people to use.
There's always a danger that when people use a process or they go on a training course that they get all fired up about it. We've already said that this is all about repetition. But when they walk out of the door from this, how is it utilised around their offices?
The main thing is that we get the people to print out the map and to put up at their workstation, because you want to keep the map in your consciousness. In fact, Siemens had everybody scan the maps in as their screensavers. Microsoft had them on plasma screens all around the call centre at Winish. And then the map is shared with the manager. And so it's brought out on a monthly basis, and people talk through the map and they update with new actions they need to take, new ideas. And that can be done as often as a person wishes, or it can be done on a quarterly basis, like a quarterly review. It's easier to get somebody to follow through with the map in an organisation or a school, because you can be a little bit directive. You can say, okay, everybody's going to have their map out, everybody's going to look at it once a day at the start of the work day to reform those brain cell connections. You are going to email the map to your immediate manager. When a person creates their map and pushes the send button on the email, psychologically that's like getting them to stand up in the room and say, here's what I'm going to do. And so it takes the commitment to a deeper level. Likewise, you can do those same things in a school. You can be a little bit directive with it. In my public workshops, and I run one not far from here at Heathrow, then it's about inspiring the people and making sure they understand the importance of looking at their map once a day. I've been teaching the system 25 years. I've written the books, they're in many languages, but I still use the system. I have my own maps. I have a map for business, I have a map for purpose, I have a map for my health and well-being, because you want to collate the information that's important for the different areas onto the map. So you can have one map about your life generally for the big picture, but then you want maps for the areas of life. And you gradually, by doing that, you make it a habit pattern. And now with the online program, no matter where people are in the world. They can receive the information, and they can receive real-time live coaching from one of my goal mapping coaches. And they can just go to the website, create their map, and then ask for support.
Now, I want to make absolutely certain, is there a next stage on, or do you feel we've covered it? Because I feel I'm just really excited about it. I want to get out there and I want to do my maps, and that's what's so exciting about this, and I'm sure people watching this. But is there a bit that we're missing? Is there a magic sauce that we plug in at the end of all of this that really guarantees success?
The important things are firstly creating the map. Sometimes I fly to the other side of the world to speak at a big conference, and I only speak for 20 minutes, and other times I have a 2-day workshop. But the results are really not produced by me speaking, and we could have hours together today. That doesn't program the person's brain. It's doing the map. Because as the person creates the map, that starts the creation of those brain cell connections. Then the key is they look at the map once a day for a minimum of 10 days. And as they look at the pictures, say the words. So they're activating both sides of the brain, they're strengthening the connections, they start the formation of beliefs. In essence, that's it. Everything else is just addition to that and added inspiration. Then afterwards, there are other techniques. I have 4 different mapping techniques. Each one goes deeper, but I always start with the goal mapping as the entry place.
Our hour has beaten us. I cannot believe it's flown by like that. It's been a fantastic program. We always ask our guests at the end to look straight down camera number 4.
Thank you.
To say who they are, where they're from, and really to summarize what we've talked about today, and also your contact details as well,
okay.
Which will be fantastic and where we can go. But the airwaves are all yours. Camera number 4, take a breath, and off you go.
Hi, I'm Brian Mayne. I'm creator of the goal mapping system that uses words and pictures to help activate both sides of your brain. It's a simple technique that helps you to think your best thoughts so that you trigger the chemical release and feel your best feelings. That influences you to take your best actions, and you invariably live your best life. You can access all the free materials, both paper-based and online, at my website, goalmapping.com. Try the system for yourself, see what you can achieve. Thank you.
Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being on the program today.
It's been a pleasure. You've been a wonderful host.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And you know what, that's what this is all about. What great information to be taking into your organisation, into your business. And the thing about it, I suppose, is that it's not just for the big globals, is it?
No.
So somebody who is an SME, somebody who's self-employed, particularly as we maybe go into self-isolation and things like that, this is an ideal opportunity to be doing this.
Absolutely, and I work a great deal with SMEs, and of course they're using the online program, and it doesn't matter where the person is in the world. In fact, the demand I'm seeing at the moment going up is incredible, because there is a video system you can connect with this by using Skype or Zoom, and you can literally be sharing goals with the team and the team back with you and coaching them through the progress.
And you've got a number of coaches around the UK and around the world, I take it.
500 coaches here in the UK, 1,400 around the world, and we can deliver the program in over 20 languages.
Once again, if you go to the program page at Business Connections Live, or if you go straight to Brian's page on his website, you'll find out more. Your website address should really just show the website before we finish the program. I will very quickly just stick in your name here. This is all well organized, isn't it? There we go. World of Goal Mapping. I'm getting there. There it is. Welcome to Brian Mayne's World of Goal Mapping. Goal mapping can help you turn your dreams into realities, create a goal map online, and it gives you some really good blog on here as well, isn't there?
Yeah, we feed a lot of content into the program. There's more than an hour of free video that people can watch. They get the paper template sent to them so they can print out the PDF on those if they wish. There's various testimonials, video-based testimonials, even from people like Tony Robbins, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, the thing that's really powerful is the online program. There is so much you can do online when your map's in digital form that you really can't do on paper.
Goalmapping.com is the web address you need to go to. That wraps up today's show. Hope you've enjoyed today's program. It's been a really interesting show. I love stuff like this. So I shall be definitely going to the website after the program. I'll be sitting down there. And you say you've got some training coming up very shortly at Heathrow or thereabouts. When's that happening?
That's happening 27th of June.
Barring technical reasons.
Barring technical reasons, and also 27th of May. Barring travel restrictions, we'll have to see.
All right then. Listen, that wraps up today's show. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Until we do it all again next week, thank you for watching Business Connections Live. Great as always to have you coming. Don't forget, we're live each and every Monday at 12 noon, live from our studios. If you want to get in touch with us, 01784 256 777. But from Brian and myself, Steve Hyland, have a great week. See you next week. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.